Welcome back everyone to the One Piece discussion video today. We've got new gods, we've got old gods, we've got rain gods, forest gods, sun gods, sea gods, just about every kind of god in the pantheon, and we're going to break it down all here today. Please, for me, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out against the algorithm on my new channel, and I appreciate any kind of support you guys can give me. But for now, let's get right into it. Alright, so One Piece chapter 1182, we learn about Zaza the Rain God. We've got another title drop for another god. It seems like just throughout Wano, we've basically been learning about the entire One Piece pantheon, which I'll talk about later this week. We've got essentially every new type. We essentially have now the four that was mentioned way back during the Mount Block Nolan flashback. And we see exactly, then we don't see exactly, but we see what the Celestial Dragons fear the most, alongside Nika and the people of the Clan D, all right? Zaza, the Rain God. And this gets explained by Killingham. He explains that for Celestial Dragons, they live way at the top of the world, above even the rain clouds, okay? And for them, being hit by anything below them is essentially like a huge mark of shame or just a big fear that drives them insane, because we know fire destroys, water cleanses and purifies. And so the rain pouring and just washing them away is like, since they're like the scum of the earth, essentially, is a huge no-no for them. And so that got me thinking, like, okay, so what are we dealing with? We have essentially Zaza the Rain God. And when Killingham said they live above the rain clouds, that got me thinking, okay, we know there's a certain distance between the bottom of the sea, from the surface of the sea, and to the bottom, like said Fishman Island. It's like 10,000 meters or something like that. I don't know the exact measure, but I know it's somewhere around there. And we know exactly how far the clouds are. So this basically means that there is no rainfall. And for some people, longest time, I thought the reason why Celestial Dragons all wear that bubble over their head was because they didn't want to breathe the same air as regular humans. They didn't like this. No, there might be a reason for this, because if they are wearing those bubbles, and the higher the the higher up you go, the thinner the air gets, and the harder it is to breathe. And the altitude can actually make people, very tired and affect them in different ways. All right. So for the longest time, we thought such dragons were, why are they wearing spacesuits? Well, there might be a reason why they're doing this, is because they're trying to, get used to the altitude that comes to that, or they're just actually being snobs who don't like the air regular people drink. Breathe. I don't know. We'll deal with that at a later time. But again, they don't necessarily like, they wear that up for a reason. So like, I think, okay, so they're that high up, so above even the rain clouds. And so when Killingham's going on, he says, this is what we fear the most, Zaza, the rain god, okay? Even more so than Nika, the warrior of liberation, even more sign than the D clan, even more side even the Davy clan. This is the one thing that all Celestial Dragons fear the most, all right? Zaza, the rain god, okay? And so today, I'll kind of like lay out all the times exactly we were mentioned Zaza, or like a rain god of some kind, and then kind of see exactly, kind of tie this into real world mythology and see exactly where we go. So in real world mythology, okay, we essentially have, okay, different types of rain deities in mythology, all right? The one we can see most likely is Mesoamerican, Aztec, Mayan, with a hint of African, okay? Because in African mythology, there is a rain dance that gets done to try to call in the rain spirit so they can pour down rain. And when Killingham mentions Zaza for the first time, he explains there is Zaza appears with a dance of the rhythm of the rain dance, all right? And so that got me thinking, okay, so Oda's clearly drawing inspiration from other points in mythology. He always does this. Kudos to him. And so Zaza appears with the rain dance, the rhythm of the rain dance, okay? And so we all know about the Nika dance, doon da 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 doon da 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 doon da 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 doon da da da. And we know about the warrior of liberation, the drums of liberation, all right? We know that when Nika appears, you can hear the drums of liberation. Zunisha even says it all the way back towards the end of Wano. He explains, I hear it, the drums of liberation. And you can hear it, all right? This was a song passed down to the descendants of the Buccaneer clan, from Kuma's father Clap, from Kuma to his daughter Bonnie. All right. And so that leads me to believe, okay, is this Zaza rain dance, is this rhythm first kind of shared throughout the generations? And this is why some people we haven't met have worshipped Zaza the rain god, because we don't necessarily know much about that at all. And we see Zaza, at least the way Killingham imagined. Now remember, Killingham is using his imagination, how he appears Zaza. Maybe he has a mural of some kind We don't really see Zaza in the mural from the beginning of the arc in Elbaf. We just see a little raindrop that's in the upper left corner, and we don't really talk about exactly like, okay, so this is where Zaza is, all right. And so in real mythology, you have these different types of rain gods. Okay, so another one is Chalak. I'm butchering the hell out of that. And Tarak in Aztec and Mayan mythology. And essentially, these type of rain gods are essentially people worship and pray to as sort of like deities that provide them rain, sustenance, but they're also not only rain gods, but also kinds of storm gods like Susanoo from Japanese Shintoism and mythology. That's where that comes from. So not where it comes from, but there's a similarity between them. So they're not just rain, but they also have command over the weather. And we see when Zaza first appears in Killingham's dream monster, essentially a translucent skin. And if you're like me, when you think of like water beings that are translucent, you always think of this one character from Static Shock. She was a metahuman that could turn her body into water. I'll post a picture up so you can see her. But again, that's what that looks like. And so that got me thinking, okay, so when you have these types of rain deities in Mesoamerican cultures, there's always offering, they're either seen as cosmic entities or just malevolent beings that can just bring disaster down on you. And for some of these cultures, they would offer up offerings to kind of like pay tribute to these mythical not these mythological figures, all right? And they would offer food, bloodletting, some sacrifices even, try to appease the rain god. So that way they could, get rain, because in Mesoamerican culture, rain is very important. It's how they have things like growing food, obviously, for particular corn, which is very important for their sustenance. And so when we see, any kind of mention of a rain deity in mythology, it's always meant to be like, okay, this is very important because it provides us sustenance, which is kind of funny because celestial dragons, they're all, living in a life of opulence and just like wealth and just slavery and all that. And so why would they fear Zaza, the rain god? Why is it? Because as far as Killingham is explaining it, they don't like having anything look down on them. They live at the top of the highest point of the world. Now, this also links to the fact that they're also aware of the truth that Vegapunk revealed in Egghead, how the world is going to flood. So they all knew this. This is why they all moved to the top of the red line, the highest point in the world. And for the celestial dragons, the idea of anything looking down at them and washing them away like the people down below, that drove them insane. They don't like that. So that kind of got me thinking like, okay, so we now have Zaza, the rain god. Okay, so now I've kind of touched on the mythology. Let me talk about Zaza in the One Piece world and the times we mentioned a rain god. Okay, so the first time we ever see like Zaza as Otopium is when Dragon first appears in the manga. Okay, I know Dragon's on Fraud Watch. I know he hasn't done anything, and he's basically been memed to death, saying all he does is look east. His friends can be captured, enslaved, essayed, and just about everything that can happen. See Ginny, for example. See Bonnie and Inazuma rotting in prison, and all he does is just look east. Just keep looking east. He doesn't do anything, fam. So what do we do? So then we first see Dragon, okay? And we see the Otopium for Zaza, heavy rainfall, just like right in him, like when he's ore farming essentially in front of Smoker, and he blocks the attack. Smoker uses to try to take out Luffy. And then all of a sudden, before that, we saw a lightning strike where Luffy was going to get executed by Buggy. I don't know what I was thinking about Bon Clay for some reason. I was on the Dragon leaving his friends behind story, but that's a whole other can. And then we see basically a massive rainpour come out of nowhere. And then when Dragon stops Smoker from attacking Luffy, he basically summons a giant storm happens, and it sweeps Luffy and his crew up, and they just get out of town, and they're on their ship and they're on their way. And so that led to a lot of people think that Dragon has the wind fruit. All right. Me personally, I'm partial to the storm fruit. I know that would be broken, but see Whitebeard's Gura know me for other powers that are broken in this series, or even lost powers, okay? We've got plenty of crocodile fruits. But that led people to believe, okay, Dragon has some kind of wind or storm paramecia. So that's the first time we ever see Zaza, like the Otopium, as far as I know. Another time we see any kind of issue with rain is during the Alabaster, okay? We have the dance powder, okay? Remember, Zaza rain dance, okay? Then remember how people in Mesoamerican cultures and African cultures, they would use this kind of rain dance to summon the rain spirits to water the crops. With the dance powder in Alabasta, remember how Crocodile was essentially using that to basically gain water in Alabasta and basically create a unstable political environment to try to overthrow King Cobra and basically seize control of the country and gain access to the weapon that he thought there, Pluton. He thought that was there. the ancient weapon. And so with the dance powder, you basically would be taking the rain clouds from one country and moving it all the way to another one. All right. And that caused a lot of resentment and instability in the kingdom of Alabaster, which was Crocodile's plan from the very beginning. And we see him basically just, if not for the efforts of the Straw Hats, he would have taken over Alabasta and it would have become like Dressrosa, but Grand Line version. All right. It would have been a pirates ruled country. And so we see this happen. And then this is the first time we ever see mention the dance powder, remember. And this also gets people ask the question, hey, Oda Sensei, is the dance powder based off how in England, in the UK, Wimbledon is very important? And so they would have jets, actual jets, clear out rain and storm clouds to make sure they had a clear day and essentially make sure that the country had clear weather for actual Wimbledon games. And Oda's response is like, no, it's not that. Okay, what this is based off is a real life substance. I'm going to put its name on the screen. I believe it's silver something. And what it does essentially is creates bigger clouds, all right? And make sure that you can basically move things along your way, all right? So that's what Oda based his substance on. Right? Dance powder is based off that real life substance that manipulates the cloud atmosphere, all right? And so that's kind of another time we can look at instance of a rain god, okay? Or kind of anything that's tied to the rain, okay? Now, if you're like me and you think of rain, you think of sadness. What's the old saying? Why are you crying? Because it's sad, because it's raining. Or are you crying? Are you sad? Or it's raining because you're sad. We all know that old line. And you just see that happen. And then you're like, okay, so okay, so then another time first time we actually see a mention of the rain god is Skypiea. Listen, people, Skypiea is the key. It is, literally, if we will, at the end of the series, it could be 10 years, could be another 20 years. I have no idea how long One Piece is going to last. But I promise you this. The first time we ever mention anything at all major in this story, like in terms of lore building, goes back to Skypiea. Because literally, it's all linked to Skypiea. It's all linked to Skypiea, okay? There's videos on the internet from YouTubers like Library of Ohara. They explain this, all right? Skypiea is the key. It is the key to everything, okay? And so we see this, and then we're like, okay, so then the first time we ever see this, it was during the Nolan flashback, okay? So during the scene, we had a sacrifice going on, much like in Aztec culture, to the god. I believe it was, I forget the name, it was the Kakashimi, the snake, essentially. And now what happens is there is a sacrifice going on. And then you have the girl Moose, I believe her name was, and she is about to be sacrificed to this entity. And essentially what happens is during the sacrifice alt stream, you have mentioned of the first time the rain god, the sun god, the god of the land, and the forest god. That's the first time we ever see those four kind of mentioned. And so obviously the sun god is Nika, i.e. Joy Boy and Luffy. The sun god, rain god is Zaza. Forest god may or may not be Chopper, we don't know. And then the earth god or god of land, which is probably that, is maybe Emu. Again, I have no idea who that is, but from what it looks like, Emu probably is the earth god, because also Emu's based off the devil, so we don't really need to talk about that. But again, this is the first time we ever see Zaza, right? And then during that scene, Noland, to his credit, basically chops the head off of this god, all right? Because the people there were dealing with a fever, all right? A kind of tree fever. Now, Noland, who wasn't from there, already knew how to deal with this well before this, all right? He's like, we know how to figure this out. We have a cure for this. And then when Nolan's trying to take down the trees and try to make a cure for this, he gets caught in a landmine. And then so when Nolan killed it, people were freaking out. He killed essentially their god, their representative god, their incarnation. To people out there in the audience, it would be the equivalent of like going back to ancient Egypt and killing the sacred bull of Memphis, all right? That would be like that for them. Or killing or slaughtering cows, essentially, kind of exactly for what India is and how Hinduism operates. But that's what Nolan did. And so he was met with a lot of crap, understandably so, because he basically committed sacrilege in their eyes. And so Nolan basically hauls ass and leaves. He tries to distribute the cure. He gets caught in an earthquake, which you could argue maybe that's some kind of like divine foreshadowing that he pissed off at the rain god or earth god or whatever. And then he just basically gets caught in a landfill. And then so Nolan is basically talking to Caligula, and Caligula is like, listen, please, you got to distribute this cure. It'll work, okay? Then the child, Kagashimi's child, is going to try to attack him, and then Caligula kills it, and he's distributed the cure, and Nolan and him become friends, and we kind of see where Nolan's story ends up. But that is the first time we ever see mention of a rain god. Okay, and we really don't see it at all in this story because again, we don't really see it now. Now this gets to the next part of it. Okay, who is the rain god? Okay, now fans, listen. He's been on Fraud Watch for like probably since Egghead after the Ginny flashback, which he is not looking good. Since then, his stocks have been plummeting down. All right, and so fans are like, okay, who is the freaking rain god? Who is Zaza the rain god? Well, it's most likely Dragon, if it does exist. Now, me personally, again, I'm gonna say this again. We have enough mythical zones in this story. We are up to 18 to 13 Logia, okay? We are well past the point of them being more rare, okay? We're just at this point, just please, if you discount the Gorose's powers, right? That's 13 to 13, okay? We do not have, we had 3 in this arc, we've had 6 in Wano, like we kind of like, and we had 2 in the last 2 arcs. We had Green Bull's Forest Fruit and then Karasu's Soot Fruit. We do not have any other Logias. Like we're still just waiting to see what happens. So. And then we see, we now have the mention of Zaza the Rain God. Now, because remember, Vegapunk said that the devil fruits in the One Piece world are based off people's desires. People wanted those powers. People wanted to be like Nika, all right? And then people also wanted jacket fruit, which I don't know why people wanted a jacket power, but it exists. I want to be able to turn into a black dragon, a Needhog fruit. So that leads me to believe that these powers, we're essentially kind of like this may be one of those protaginator fruits or a primordial power that we typically see in some series where we see an ancient power that comes first and it's like the originator, because a lot of people, and I probably have this too, that emus is the originator devil fruit, the protaginator. Now we don't know how old devil fruits are. We don't know when they came into existence. We just don't know. But if following Vegapunk's thought logic, then that means that if devil fruits did come out of desires, that means that the rain god Zaza, Nika, and the forest god, essentially, think of them as like the primordial devil fruits, and they came to existence, and they were basically representing like people's biggest fears or biggest desires, probably desires, and they manifested other devil fruits as a result of it. So then because they came into existence, people wanted other powers, like the ability to turn into magma, turn into an azure dragon, turn into a literal any kind of weapon, because we know in the ancient past they came from a technologically advanced kingdom. So that kind of leads it to there. Okay, so somebody eventually wanted the power of Zaza. Okay, Zaza's power probably does exist. I'd be surprised if it didn't, because again, this is the funny thing about this. Okay, particularly in One Piece, right? In the most recent chapters, Oda's kind of had to he had to shoe some stuff in to kind of fit what he's going for. Like for example, One Piece fans are like, okay, when did we get first mention of Nika? We learned about Nika during Jinbei's fight with Who's Who in the back half of Act 3 of Wano. That's it. It's not mentioned at all. Now, people see Luffy doing a dance like the Nika dance back in Skypiea. Always pay attention to Skypiea. It is the key to everything. Skypiea is the key, okay? It is all in Skypiea. Some fans don't like it, but I still love it. So it's probably top 4 for me in terms of all One Piece. Definitely top 2 pre-time skip. But we see the Nika dance, and then we don't see Nika's name proper until that end. So Oda's basically going to have to set up some other point, because Luffy's the sun god, Chopper may or may not be the forest god, Imu's probably the earth god based off the mural, because we are most likely in the third world according to the mural. And so that means that, okay, right now we're in the third world, okay? So that may or may not mean essentially we now have Zaza the Rain God, because we've seen the earth, forest, rain, right? And so now we need to find out who this Zaza the Rain God. Now, Dragon is the most wanted man in the world, and a lot of the rain deities in mythology are not just rain, but they also are some kind of weather-based or storm-based ability, right? They control lightning, wind, they can summon down tremendous damage, and so that got me thinking, like, okay, so that means we now have another mythical zone, Zaza the Rain God. We probably have that is most likely Dragon's fruit, because Dragon is the most wanted man in the world, the worst criminal in history, and it would be fitting for the man whose goal, remember, Dragon's goal is not to destroy the world government. He likes the institution as a whole. It's just that the corrupt establishment at the top, he wants to get rid of. He wants to just literally wash away. In goes the drain and wash the spider out. That's what he wants, okay? He wants to cleanse this world of the celestial dragons, okay? And so if that represents their greatest fear, and he wants to essentially upend the status quo, it would make sense for him to have that power and basically represent the celestial dragons' biggest fears. Also, keep in mind, Luffy has an attack against Kaido called Kong Bajradong, and it's based off Buddhism of a monkey god whose father had the power to control the weather. Not sure how we can go deep into that, but again, that's all the headcanon I have on that one, that Luffy's whole relationship with Dragon is like, hey, this is the power of Zaza. This is the rain god, okay? This is the power that's going to wash away the celestial dragon's filth. This is going to cleanse the world of all their sins, because you know about the story about the prophet Noah, how the world has basically gone to hell, and God decided, okay, I'm going to cleanse the earth of its sins, and so Noah, I'm commanding you to build an ark and get 2 of every animals to repopulate it. Now, some people debate whether it was the whole world or just the actual section of it. We don't know, but again, point is, this happens. And Dragon's goal is to wipe away the sins and the atrocity of celestial dragons. So he's going to flood it. And this also gets into the perfect kind of like symbolism of the celestial dragons, because they see themselves as descendants of gods, okay? And they eventually see themselves as the rulers of gods. And the idea that someone's above them, like the rain clouds, Zaza, and she stands above them, Zaza the rain goddess, because we learned that Zaza is a woman, at least far as we, at least the way it's predicted by is killing him, and Zaza stands in the judgment of them. So the idea that there is some kind of like all-powerful deity, essentially, in the One Piece world, at least one kind, that stands in judgment of them, terrifies the hell out of them, because they don't know, but they don't care, that they're all scuffed people. Not all. Some people like Mio's guard, obviously, and God rest what happened to him, man. R.I.P., man. You got hoed real badly. Or some people like, we saw her during the broadcast at Egghead, all right? She was a member of Roswald's family, okay? I forget her name. She was his sister. She's like, what is a void century? So that leads me to believe maybe she's someone that's beginning to question the existence of the celestial dragons. Shanks, he wasn't obviously raised as a dragon. He was a born one, but he obviously wasn't raised this way. So again, a lot of it comes down to nurture and nature, and what the environment that you have and how that shapes you and what kind of person you're going to be. So, but the celestial dragons obviously are all scuffed people, and the moment Dragon's Revolution is going to come, you could just see him summoning a storm cloud and just washing away the celestial dragon's filth and just cleansing it. All right, again, it's got to be Dragon. Come on, who else? Come on, who else? It's got to be Dragon, right? I mean, who else would have the power? It's not Yasop. Shit, that bum ain't doing shit. Okay. So again, I most likely think it's Dragon. It would be awesome if it was. It would fit thematically for his character and what he's trying to do. And it would fit that whole, the rhythm of mythology, how rain gods are essentially like the ones who provide nourishment, but as well as chaotic forces. And that's what Dragon is trying to do to upend the celestial dragons rule. But anyway, I'm Malik. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Really helps me out against the algorithm. God bless you all and have a wonderful day.